Hi, good afternoon. I'm Christy Bashwinger, the Senior Director of Specialty Services at Aspen Dental Management. For those of you that may not know, Aspen Dental Management is a DSO, dental service organization, that provides all non-clinical support needs for approximately 850 branded Aspen Dental locations nationwide. I am very happy to be here with you today to host our first virtual VIBE session in our first edition of Endodontist Ask Me Anything. Joining us today are three very talented endodontists that will be on our panel. We have Dr. Tucker, Dr. Snee, and Dr. Naveed. I will ask them just in a moment to briefly introduce themselves. My job here today is to encourage conversation and help facilitate your questions. So if you see me looking around, it's because I'm looking at the panels and the computer screens. We want to encourage as much participation in this process. Again, it's an Ask Me Anything session, and we have a great panel to be able to do that. On the bottom of your Zoom screen, you have a Q&A panel. We're going to ask that that's how you communicate your questions directly in by simply typing them in. They will be anonymous, so don't worry and ask whatever you'd like to know from our panel. If I don't happen to get to all of them because of our time today, in order to stay on schedule, I would welcome you to reach out to anybody in our talent acquisition team or myself, and we'd be happy to go ahead and coordinate another call to answer any questions that we do not get to. So let's go ahead and get to our introductions. First, we'll start with Dr. Tucker.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time for being with us here today. I'm Dr. Tucker. I've been with Aspen Dental for 15 years, and I joined right out of my residency in 2006. I work in the Massachusetts and Connecticut regions, and I cover 14 offices, and I've been loving every minute of it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Tucker. All right, Dr. Snee.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Snee. I'm 4 years out of endo residency. I did my first 2 years in private practice in Pennsylvania, and then 2 years ago joined Aspen Dental, worked for a year in Pennsylvania, and then transitioned across the country to Phoenix, Arizona, and had a blast on the East Coast and the West Coast with Aspen.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome. And Dr. Naveed.
Hey guys, my name is Dr. Naveed. I'm also an endodontist, 3 years out of school. This is my third year with Aspen. This December is going to be the third year. I initially worked for another DSO for 3 months and then joined Aspen. Did all my training at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. And initially was working in the Ohio market and now moved to Atlanta, Georgia.
Great. Again, I'll just briefly let you folks know, I am Christy. I've been in the field operations teams here with Aspen Dental for 22 years. Joined the specialty team just over a year ago, and I have had an amazing time working with over 100 endodontists and oral surgeons over the past year. So we're thrilled to be here today to help answer any questions, the things that you want to know, a day in the life of an endodontist here at Aspen Dental. And again, if there's any field operations questions, I also would like to be able to help facilitate any of those questions that you may have. So great news is, and again, please do not mind me looking around. I am going to be looking at the panel of questions coming in. So we'll go ahead and now get started with some of our questions that we have. Okay, great. I can tell you that one of the first things that people ask, and it's really common, is about equipment here at Aspen Dental. Does Aspen Dental provide you with a microscope, and do you have to travel with it to each office? So why don't we go ahead and start with Dr. Naveed? Would you like to go ahead and answer that one?
Oh, sure. Yes, Aspen Dental does provide you with a microscope and a case to carry it around. The choice of carrying it around is yours, to make if you want to do that, or maybe have your assistant do it. I usually carry it in the back of my SUV, and it's always there. And it's a newer markets, you get the newer global microscope. The older markets, some of them have the older one. But yes, you do get a microscope, and there's going to be a stand in every office where you'd have to take minute 30 to hook that microscope up.
Wonderful. And correct me if I'm wrong too, the global representatives come right out to the office to help you get set up with your optics and whatnot early on.
Yeah, initially when you move in, if there's anything, they're there to set up, and also overall, the two states that I work with, the global microscope reps, they're very helpful and friendly, and usually, available. They'll come in and whatever is needed to be done, they'll do.
Perfect. So again, we're going to kind of group questions as closely together to make this kind of easier to follow. Another question came in that says, do you get to choose what supplies or items that you want to purchase, or do you have to work with preferred brands? Dr. Snee, would you like to go ahead and take that question?
Yeah, sure. Both times that I got set up in Pennsylvania and Arizona, what I did the first time, I sent Aspen a spreadsheet with Excel. I think it had like 120 rows in it with the stuff I wanted, and then it got shipped to the office. So as far as I know, I've never had a problem getting any kind of equipment at all. I don't ask for anything crazy, but anything I ask for, I've gotten. It's been really nice.
Wonderful. And as a new endodontist, we have folks on our team that partner with you. So we have specialty support managers that also assist in that ordering process to kind of make sense of that spreadsheet too. So just to tag along to that. Okay, CBCT is a big question here. Now, Dr. Tucker, you're in a mature market. Would you like to talk about whether or not we have CBCT technology available in our Aspen Dental offices?
So yes, so the plan was to have all the offices, even in the mature markets, outfitted with CBCTs. Right now, out of my offices, we have 2 of them that are already equipped, and the rest of them were slated to be equipped earlier in the year. But with COVID, there's been a little bit of a road bump, if you will. That plan is going to progress as scheduled, and we're just starting to get on board with that. So eventually, all of the offices, maybe in the next 12 months or so, I expect will have CBCTs.
That's a great point, Doc. I will confirm that. Every brand new location is getting them. And then going forward, we're going to retrofit and hope to have that accomplished by the end of next year. So perfect. A great question came in, and we're going to maybe transition into more about procedures and schedules. How many patients do you see in a day, and do you dictate your own schedule for amount of time per appointment? Let's go with Dr. Snee on this one. Again, number of patients and timing that is necessary per procedure.
Pretty similar. I've always found that we get to pretty much dictate what we'd like to do. I give pretty clear scheduling guidelines, and I would say that it's respected pretty much 100% of the time. I say how long I would like for a molar, how long I'd like for an anterior premolar, and then my schedule's set up accordingly. I don't like to be crazy busy, and that's respected as well. I prefer to see maybe 7 or 8 treats a day, and that's it, with minimal to no side booking and consults. That's what I ask for, and that's what the office is set up for me.
Perfect. Another great question. Wow, guys, these questions are coming in fast. So again, please excuse me having to look over at them. I'm excited to see that we have such great participation. In the lines of procedures and schedules, if you get stuck on a difficult case, which is sometimes hard to navigate, what is your next step? Who on the panel might want to take that question?
I could. So even, you never really, I feel the longer you stay in the field, the more you realize there's so much more that you could learn. So if there is a difficult case and I'm stuck, there's no pressure to finish ever. I like to medicate the case, take a step back. And so, in Aspen Dental itself, like there's a group of endodontists that I'm close to, that I've grown with over the years. And so we share x-rays and we discuss, hey, what would you do with this case? We troubleshoot. And most of the times nowadays, I see the patient in an office that is equipped with CBCT. We run a scan and then take it from there. So that's how I approach it.
Perfect. Does anybody else want to add anything to that question?
Pretty much, you know, as endodontists, it's lonely out there. You know, you're by yourself, you know, in a operatory doing your own thing. So it really depends on the person. You know, if I'm having a difficult case, I mean, for obvious reasons, you're not gonna just put it in. You know, the difference, the reason why we went and got training in this field. So um, I always dedicate. You know, I always bring them back. There's a reason. You know, there's something you could do better next time. You could need more time, for example. Patients getting tired, and well, you know, you have a backup plan, you know, and you have time booked out if needed. You know, you have all the, you know, you kind of know what you're trying to accomplish, and I don't know if our audience is newer or older ones, but usually when you place scalpel on our side, something magical happens next time. You know, you go back in there, it's like obvious. And you're like, oh, this is a lot easier than I thought. So you always, after you just start, things go a lot easier. So in difficult cases, 2 steps endo is the name of the game for me.
Awesome. A little bit of audio issues there, Doc, just so you know. I'm not sure. I just wanted to let you know I personally wasn't able to hear all of that.
Okay.
But fundamentally, I think that, you know, the answer that I typically hear is that you do the procedures that you're really comfortable with. And if you doubt it, then clearly you're going to make that decision. So that kind of goes into the next question that's coming up. And, you know, what does a typical day look like? And what types of procedures are you doing as an endodontist at Aspen Dental? So let's ask Dr. Sneed to take that one.
Basically what we want to do. I would say about 85% of what I do is just initial endo, maybe 15%, maybe 10% retreat. I know in some markets, some endodontists with Aspen don't do any retreats. It's what you want to do. Like I don't do any surgery for the simple reason that there's only a couple cases a month that I tend to see that tend to end up in my chair that would benefit from surgery. And I don't personally want to take the surgery equipment from office to office if I'm only going to use it a couple times a month. So that's my decision, and that's well respected as well.
Perfect. We're going to piggyback on a question that came through regarding what Dr. Tucker said. Is there mentorship opportunities for endodontists within Aspen Dental? Dr. Tucker mentioned having a group that she can discuss cases with. So I'm wondering if that's common. So Dr. Tucker, could you go ahead and elaborate a little bit more for our guest?
Of course. So when I started 15 years ago, I was, I think, one of maybe 2 or 3 endodontists. So definitely the support was, there weren't that many of us. And at the time, DSOs in general were new. But I've made connections over the years with other endodontists whom I've met at conferences or CE courses run by Aspen, who work in the Northeast, and we've gotten close over time. And so we just feel comfortable sharing our cases, good ones, bad ones, ugly ones. I mean, we all have them. We all have cases that are difficult, and so, you know, even with Dr. Naveed, he calls me a couple times, and so we just, you know, we grow and we reach out to each other and we make a little network. And so the support is definitely there. So if you're looking for support, for mentorship, you have to reach out and, you know, maybe Christy, you know, Christy can put you in touch with one of us, and then we connect, and yeah, we're part of the same family. So we're there for each other always.
That's a great point, Dr. Tucker. It's very common that when a new endodontist or oral surgeon does join the Aspen team, very often we'll connect them with somebody that's established with Aspen and really understands the logistics really well. So you're absolutely correct. We can assist in that process. And then going forward, once we get through this stranger period with COVID, we'll get back to having our annual events where that's a huge networking opportunity to meet your fellow endodontists and oral surgeons. Every August, we get together as a large group, and that is really where those relationships are fundamentally built and continue to build. So here's a great question again, and we want to go ahead and answer this specific about schedules and procedures. How are on-calls or emergency visits managed? Dr. Naveed, let's hope that your audio is better, or you want to handle on-call or emergency visit question?
So the nature of our model is such that we're not going to be in all the offices that we go to at all times. So a lot of those on-call emergency visits you handle in coordination with the doctor in that particular office. So let's say, you know, they usually patient reaches back to that office and they let you know this is what's happening and you can assess as to what's going on. And I try to say, you know, I'll give them a call myself, or I say, hey, it's okay, just do this or that. So it's going to be a team effort with the office that the patient was seen at, and you know, usually it turns out okay, you know. But again, if you have a good relationship with the referring doctors at each office, they'll reach out to you. They say, hey, you know, please give this patient a call. You know, it's serious, or you know, usually most of them handle it themselves. So that's kind of how it is. You know, you don't necessarily have to be on call on the weekends if that's the point of the question, or if you don't like to give your cell phone out, absolutely not. You know, I don't have my cell phone out there. So those are some points, you know, that I would answer that question with. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, Dr. Tucker, you've been here for quite some time and you have a large number of offices that you cover. Is it common that you get any after-hour calls? Is that something that the panel or the attendee should be concerned about?
So it's rare that I get after hours calls, but it does happen. And I've made it very clear to the office managers, and also my relationship with the dentist in the office, the general dentist, is such that they know that if there's any question with any of my cases that I want to know, usually the general dentist in the office is the first person the patient will contact after hours in my territory, and then they get in touch with me. And what I do is I'll call the patient and you know, and schedule them for a reevaluation the very next day. Luckily, in my geography, in my territory, because between Connecticut and Massachusetts, the offices are somewhat closer to each other, so there might be at best, so you know, maybe just 45 minutes apart. So the patient is very willing to make the drive over to come and see me for a reeval.
That's one of the best advantages of having multiple locations, that we can simply have those patients visit another location. So thank you. Here's a great question, and I will, I'll read it. Some other DSOs out there push to have their GPs refer all endos, be it anterior, premolar, molar, to their specialist. What have all of you noticed? Do the GPs that you work with do some of their own root canals? So I'll just ask the panel if there's anyone who wants to grab that one. Dr. Sneed, maybe we'll go toward you this time.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know. I don't audit anybody's schedules to see if they're snaking an anterior or premolar in, but I would say that I do get a lot of anterior and premolar cases from all of my referrals. I don't think any of them do molar endo. I'm very busy, and it's a nice mix of cases. I mean, I would probably be bored doing anteriors all day, so a good mix is what I'm looking for.
Great. Here's a question, and this kind of transitions over to some of the logistics that are involved in the positions at Aspen Dental as an endodontist. Do you have an assistant that travels with you to each office, or different assistants that work with you in each office? Dr. Tucker, let's go ahead and give that question to you.
So I have an assistant that travels with me to all the offices. So it's a single assistant. She carries the equipment. She gets in there ahead of time, sets up, and she's dedicated to me. So, and in case she takes a day off or anything, or she needs some time off, generally we try to coordinate so that I'm off on the same day. But if it so happens that, you know, she's ill or she needs some time, then the office supports me with their assistant. And they're nice enough where I get to pick which assistant I'd like to work with. Somebody who's more experienced and of course X-ray certified and, you know, is efficient. So
yeah, that's great. You always have your dedicated dental assistant, but you have backup dental assistants. That's the beauty of the network, is that traveling amongst all locations, right, doctors? You always have other dental assistants on site that can help in a pinch if you need another set of hands. So great. A lot of questions, guys, are coming in. People love to hear about kind of schedules. So here's a question that says, are your schedules pretty full? And how far in advance are you booked out? Now, Dr. Snee, let's go ahead and give this one to you because I know out in Arizona, I think they're keeping you pretty busy. So maybe you can grab that question for me.
Yeah, so I actually only cover 8 offices, and that provides me as much work as I want. I would say right now I already have put in days for December with offices. I found that offices are asking for me to stop by like months at this point. So it's been good. I'm as busy, much busier than I was in private practice, I'll put it that way.
For sure. So our goal is to try to get your schedules planned out for about 30 days in advance so that we can give the office teams plenty of time to build up a nice schedule and build up a productive day for the doctors. A question came in, how often do you go to each office once in a month? And I know that's going to vary a bit based on our panel because they have different numbering locations, right? So Dr. Tucker and Dr. Naveed both have 13, 14 locations. So Dr. Naveed, would you like to grab that one?
Yeah, so it's a very fluid situation based on depending on the month and how quickly, if there are any holidays and whatnot, but generally every office gets a visit once a month for sure. And the busier offices, as you see the schedule filling up, you open up our extra days. So I would say possibly like this month, I was in one office, I think 3 days, which was one of the first times I've ever been to an office 3 days a month. And I was packed all 3 days. So it really is a fluid situation. There's so many factors that you can't really read into it. You just kind of just wait and see the schedule a month out and then constantly go from there. And that's something that I learned after maybe a year or so, that maybe just keep the schedule open 30 days only in order to be able to adjust as needed.
Great. I appreciate that. Here's another great question. Some DSOs push for high production, and that's we've heard that as well. At Aspen, is there a push to target high production? Is there somebody who wants to take that one and is passionate about that myth?
Sure. So there's no push for high production. Your schedule is what you want it to be. If you want to see consultations, you can. If how many cases you want to see in a day, that's dependent on how comfortable you are, and how much time you want to allot per case is also up to you. So there's never been any push here.
Awesome. So some questions are coming up about average fees for procedures. Now that one's a little bit trickier, I think, based on the demographic or the geography that we're practicing in. So I don't know that any of the panel would be really clear on being able to answer average fees. So I will say we can get into that more specific based on your area that you're interested in, and we can help you with that. So that's a roundabout answer to that one. Let's see here. Goodness, I am so excited, but this is lots of questions coming in. So let's talk about overhead. There's a question here. What overhead do the endodontists have to pay for? Dr. Snee, let's go ahead and ask you to answer the question about overhead.
We don't pay for it or any of our materials. Basically, they figure out which we're able to see, how much we've collected in a month. A couple little adjustments are made to it based on, for example, you always have to adjust for what the insurances actually pay out. But after that, that's pretty much it as far as I know.
Okay, great. Some questions about salary and commission. I'm going to go ahead and transition to that in just a few minutes. We're going to go ahead and talk about, in addition to the logistics and getting into the benefits, a question came through about work-life balance, and obviously recognizing that the position does require travel. How do you manage your work-life balance? Dr. Tucker, could you go ahead and answer that question for us?
Yeah, so that's a favorite of mine. So I have you know, the reason why I joined Aspen was for the work-life balance. And it may seem that there's so many offices and there's so much travel, but I always scheduled my private life around it, or I schedule my offices around my private life so that I can do that. So I've never missed. My kids are now 14, so I had my son pretty much when he was a baby, and I joined here, and I've never missed a school event, a game, or or a poetry tea when they were in first or second grade. I just scheduled the offices around it. So if there's an office that's closer to where I live, that's when I would schedule it on a day when I knew I had to be in his school at a certain time, and I would block my schedule in the middle of the day, run to his school, um, see whatever there was to participate in the event, and get back and finish out the rest of the day, a case or two. So I was able to do that. Also, I have my time that I schedule patients, and they stick to it. So I work from 8 to 3 typically, which gives me plenty of time, even with the driving time back, um, to be home by 4:35, depending on where the office is. And I made another recent change because now with COVID, both my kids are attending school in person. So I don't want them riding the school bus. So I drive them to school in the mornings. And so once again, I made an adjustment and I'm starting work a little bit later than I did. So I can drop both of them to their respective schools and then drive into where I have to be. So
That's outstanding. I will say, as a mom myself and being employed here at Aspen Dental for 22 years, the culture is very evident, and we care about our people and we care about the work-life balance. So thank you, Dr. Tucker. That really is good. It's great to hear. And you're still managing your schedule, seeing all the patients that need care, and really doing an outstanding job. So that is great. Dr. Naveed, another procedure or another question came up here specific to procedures. So I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, guys, and I'm sorry. Are the referring dentists requesting final buildups, posts, access fills, or are most of your procedures cotton foam and cavit?
Well, it depends. Yeah, most of them are from offices that I go to, or end up getting temporized with a cotton cavit. But if there, instances where there's a crown and you do the endo, then some referrals may ask, say, hey, just do the buildup for me, or you suggest yourself. I've never had anyone saying, hey, no, I don't want you to do a buildup. If I've told them, hey, I think it makes sense if it's a cracked tooth, I want to seal that, I want to close it up. So, it really is it's not an issue, I would say, whether you want to do it or they want to do it. I think the question comes from the standpoint where, in private practice, you may, you know, um, get a referral angry because you did the buildup. That's not really the case because you're in their office doing the work, you see them. So the relationship is such that it won't even get to the point where one may be, frustrated with another one. It's just not that kind of model.
Yeah, you're seeing them every
speak-
month. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually do almost, like, I would say 95+% of my own buildups, just because that's something that I wanted to do. I was working on that for the past year or so. Found everybody to be very receptive to it, from office managers to referring dentists, higher up, everything like that. Just because I wanted to seal the tooth the same day, just to try to help success rates. And a lot of offices, what we do is it goes right from my chair with the buildup done to crown prep same day. So the patient gets endo core crown same day, which is patients love it and the offices love it.
Follow-up question to that, Dr. Snee came in. Who collects the build-up fee, the office or the specialist? So clearly, I think the question is if you do the build-up, do you get that credit for that?
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. Here's a question, a short and sweet one. Any issues with taking vacations? Let's go ahead and ask Dr. Tucker to answer the question about vacations.
No, there's never been any issue taking vacations. I have always taken, so I'm pretty much a homely person. I spend a lot of time at home with my kids and family. So I take off every school vacation, every school holiday there is. So like election day was off for my kids, I was off. I'm taking the whole Christmas break off. I'm off the week of Thanksgiving. I take their spring break off, except that sometimes I like to go to the AAE, which is also in April. So I take half of the spring break off. And I take a week off every month in the summer. So yeah, there's never been any issue. I think I have plenty of
So I
vacation.
think the answer there is that you help to dictate your schedule. You give us the dates that you're available. If you're taking time off and you normally work a certain number of days in any given month, then we can kind of coordinate or move those dates around and be as flexible as possible to accommodate plans that you have, especially if we're doing it well in advance. I think that's easy to plan around. And I don't know if my panelists would agree that they've probably never had any issues as long as we're communicating well and making those adjustments in advance.
I also have a small, if I may, like, so it's not just vacation time. So my daughter was born during the time when I was working here, and it wasn't easy. She was born earlier than she should have been by about 3 months, and I took off like 6 months after, and that was okay to do because they understood that family comes first. You can't really focus on your professional career if you're not at peace at home. That's what I believe, and I think they believe that at Aspen as well. And so I took some time off, and everything was better, and I came back to work. And that was a long time ago, over a decade ago. And more recently, when my father was ill, I took some time off to take care of him. So you know it's this is a good place. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Here's a great question, that transition. And this is a very appropriate question given our audience today. How was your experience getting out of residency and working with Aspen? There was a question, did you get mentoring? We already talked about the mentoring piece, but I think that transition from residency into coming to Aspen Dental. Dr. Naveed, I know you worked out of residency in a different organization and then came over here. Do you want to take this one first?
Sure. I mean, it really depends on the kind of person you are yourself. If you're, easygoing person who, knows what you want, you have all your, exactly what equipment you need, and you can, getting started anywhere, it's going to be a little bit of adjustment. There's going to be times where you don't have the stuff that you need, so you have to be very patient. So it all depends on the person, I would say. How easy or hard that process goes depends on yourself. But as far as getting started, I remember when we got started. I mean, we had onboarding managers who would be there. For example, when I moved to Georgia, who she came here and tried to help me with every little thing that needed to be done. And we had the regional managers who were also there to help out. And overall, everyone's trying to help. I mean, you may not have all the things you need at the beginning, but at least I think one thing I can rest assured is that everyone's trying to help out and make sure you have a smooth transition. And it's hard, especially when you come from the residency, when you're surrounded with a lot of other co-residents and, the faculty and this and that, and you come and you're by yourself, in an office, and it all comes down to that. So it's a different feel, but if you trust yourself and you know what you're doing, this is just like anywhere else. It's like back in the residency, doing your work, and again, I think the support is definitely there.
I love it. I was just going to say that level of support. So for those of you that are going to interview today, or perhaps following the VIBE session today, I will tell you that when we make that transition, my specialty support team, we have a dedicated resource that helps you, as Dr. Naveed mentioned, in the early stages of that transition. And through that process, we really want to understand what makes you comfortable, what's your timing, what is the schedule going to look like, and we're going to build it based on what you tell us. We're never going to intentionally overwhelm you. So what you tell us that you're looking for on your schedule is exactly what our goal is to build that for you. We help to create customized schedule preference guides for each of you. So I think that we recognize that transition, it's going to take a little time to ramp up and build that level of comfort. And again, these folks make themselves readily available to be great mentors to you as well. So great. Dr. Snee, I'm gonna ask this question of you. I think you and I have talked about this a little bit in the past. What led you to choose to work at Aspen Dental versus building your own private practice?
I've looked at a couple different practice models. I just really enjoy this one. When I got started with Aspen, I really had no idea how much I was going to end up liking it. I thought it was going to be a good job, but it's honestly just been great. When I left private practice, I was just looking to be busier, essentially. It was an okay practice I was in, but I found there were days where I would only see 3 or 4 patients a day, and I was making decent money, but I was just bored. And so looking for a place to keep me busier. I also find that I have a lot of autonomy with Aspen. I pretty much, when I get cases, I don't really have, we'll call it a boss on the cases. The referring dentists are very respectful of the knowledge that we bring to the table as specialists, and it's just a really nice working relationship. And question was asked about work-life balance. I work about 15 to 17 days a month, and that's it. I can't imagine a better job where you will pick on a calendar 15 to 17 days that you want to work, and then you're off the rest of the month. I mean, it's just a blast.
That's outstanding. And I think this is a great segue into that question, right? The way that you build your schedule, how many days you choose to work in a month, because there are some questions popping up and, about salary and commission. The general statement is, can we talk about salary, commission, et cetera, in general? Of course, I just wanted to preface that by saying that we can get into really a lot of detail during interviews with you folks. In fact, we do a lot of sharing of all of that information, but I don't know if there's any one of our panelists that would like to talk about, I guess maybe frame it in the context of, are your earning potentials where you expected them to be, or how would you kind of rate your earning potential here at Aspen Dental?
I think the earning potential at Aspen Dental is it's great. I think we all do very well financially, and without having to invest in your own practice, I think that I would say, I don't know if you agree or not, but I think that we make as much as, or maybe slightly more than somebody who owns their own practice as a single practitioner. Yeah, the income potential is really great. So
Let me add this too. I think that question you got really, it's specific to the clinician. You could do really well in the private practice, you could do poor in Aspen, or vice versa. So you can't. This is a very general question. I think it would be wrong to think that there's a higher potential here or higher potential elsewhere. You really got to see, how much you want to do, how many days you want to be available. I think what I can say is that the potential is definitely here to have a high income, but one may get misleaded that hey, I want to come work here, and then be disappointed that they're not fitting the model and they're not able to reach that potential. So, but as far as potential, I think I agree, it's definitely there.
I think too, to go along with that, right? The fact that 8 hours a day, or however many hours a day you're building a schedule, your focus is 100% clinical. You have support teams behind you that are taking care of everything from payment collections to insurance to patient management, scheduling, all of those things. So at the end of the day, when you think about private practice versus, owning your own practice versus Aspen Dental, let's say, the fact that we only really want to have the doctors focus specifically on clinical, I think is key for most of you to be more efficient in the clinic is one really optimistic thing to talk about here. Let's see here. So we're getting close. We've got about 5 minutes left. So we're going to probably, there's a lot of questions that perhaps, if you didn't get your question answered today, guys, I want you to remember to reach out to somebody in the talent acquisition team. I will also be happily available to meet with any of you or set up an additional call. Today, we're just trying to keep up with the time. So that residency thing, let's talk about COVID. I mean, let's face it. I wish we could say, today we sit here and we can say that that's all behind us and we've done a really nice job weathering this storm. But a question came through of how have you seen your practice change with COVID, and are we seeing less patients than we did before? Let's go ahead and ask Dr. Snee. Let's see if, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, sure. ways, it hasn't changed too terribly much. There are some protocols in place that there weren't before, as far as screening patients when they walk in the door. But by the time they get to me, like, I mean, I'm not taking anybody's temperature. That's being done by somebody else. You know, the calls are being screened when patients are scheduling to make sure that they've been healthy and that they haven't been exposed to anybody recently. Again, that's not anything that I'm doing. When they get to my chair, we wear an N95 where we didn't used to wear an N95, but that's on a day-to-day basis, that's the biggest difference for me. You know, as endodontists, we're very fortunate that we put the rubber dam on everybody, which, you know, drastically reduces aerosols, or at least aerosols that could potentially have the virus in them. But overall, throughout the this year, I felt very well supported. You know, Aspen has an entire team that pretty much deals with COVID 24/7, and that means that I don't have to. Basically, I can rely on some experts that have put protocols in place and just focus on the dentistry.
Absolutely. I think that I've been able to see the doctors, the clinical teams very well supported through this entire process. And you know, we're really proud of all of you for what you're doing out there to help our patients to get the care that they need. So I thank you. Obviously, N95s, Dr. Snee, you mentioned that, and you know, the question came up of, are you being provided with N95s? Now, clearly, Dr. Snee said, yes, he is, but Dr. Naveed, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that and, you know, what Aspen did to help you secure those during those difficult times of PPE?
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Aspen. I don't know how they get them, but we've been flooded with N95s. I think it's been nothing like anyone else that I've sort of talked to has. We've been having not only like N95, like probably I've used like maybe 10 different kinds of N95s, and now I found the one that I really like. So as far as PPE, I think it's a no brainer. I mean, Aspen's been on top of it and very grateful, you know.
Great. So we have just a few minutes here, and going back to that transition from, you know, residency over to the consideration to join Aspen Dental. A lot of questions come up, excuse me, about what do you like about Aspen Dental? What are the reasons why you joined Aspen Dental? And you know, I think for the last 3 minutes, I actually want to hear from all of you. I think that that's an important thing to share because each of you come from different backgrounds, slightly different backgrounds, and you've been here for certain periods of time. But over the next few minutes, let's start with Dr. Tucker, and let's talk about anyone who might question the decision to join Aspen, and what can you say that you like the most about your decision? And
So I think just like in 3 words, I enjoy the flexibility, the flexible schedule, and the ability to control my own schedule. I really like that about Aspen. And definitely I like the variability. I like visiting a different office every day because I think I would be bored if I was in the same office every day with the same 5 people, you know, the same staff. I think that would slow me down somehow. I wouldn't enjoy it as much. And definitely the income, like I have, and like Dr. Naveed says very correctly, that depends on the schedule, of course, you know, how many patients you see in a day is directly related to to what your income level is going to be. But the patients are always there. There's no dearth of patients. So you have the upside is that if you're able to see patients, there's patients to be seen. There's a lot of work to be done. So definitely the income also is something that I enjoy. Yeah. So those 3 things.
awesome, very healthy patient flow. You're never at a shortage of patients. I agree. So fantastic. Dr. Snee, how would you answer that question? Maybe muted.
Oh, let me pick it up while he's
Okay.
dealing with that. So I think for me, the reason I picked Aspen, I'm not going to get into details, but I think it was the number 1 factor was that they were able to provide the volume of work that I wanted to do. And that was probably the main reason. So I couldn't see anywhere else in that particular time when I was joining Aspen in that town that I was at, being able to fill my schedule the way I want to the extent that I wanted to, and the number of days I wanted to work. So I think for me, that was definitely the number one factor, that, you know, I want to take as many offices as I want and see as many patients as I can.
Autonomy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Snee.
I love the flexibility. I love being able to pick which days of the month that I want to work, the procedures that I want to do, the hours that I want to set. That's fantastic. It's also a really supportive team environment. They're everybody's patients. They're either referring dentist patients, they're our patients. It's in everybody's best interest to get them great care as efficiently as possible. I like being in the office with the referrals. I learn from them. It's just a really nice way to practice.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I really want to thank my panelists, my endodontists that took time today to join us to help answer these questions. There were so many questions, and I know I didn't get to all of them, guys, and I'm sorry for that, but we will definitely be available to help you. Thank you for all of our participants today and joining us for the Endodontist Ask Me Anything session. I want to make one quick note. As a friendly reminder, if you are scheduled for a one-on-one interview today with our career guidance and interviews, we ask that you do not join any sooner than 5 minutes before your scheduled time, because we will be having back-to-back interviews today. So please be mindful of that. And again, the earliest to log in would be 5 minutes before your scheduled time. I hope you have a great day and you enjoy the rest of this VIBE event, and have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.